Okay, so what do you think of this week so far, Will? This is a bunch of bull. Already we've had games come off the schedule. Like the Mac played Tuesday, and it's just a bunch of bull.
Yeah, we gotta get rid of all the Mac predictions that we had set up because they played on Tuesday, and we're recording on Thursday. That's just stupid. Anyways,
Anyway, welcome to oh God, I screwed it up again. The Skoop Sportz podcast. Joining me, it's me, Alex, and then we got my boy Will, and then we have our first guest. We have Moonshine Throwdown here on the podcast with us.
Yeah, it's KD from the Moonshine Throwdown. Glad to be a part of the show, guys. Can't wait to see what it's all about.
All right, well, thank you for coming on. So, recap of last week, Marshall had a huge win over FIU, and in my opinion, I think the highlight of the game was Jimmy the Squirrel going in for a touchdown.
Apparently on the Marshall fans page on Facebook, they called it Artemis, and they had a Marshall helmet on his head.
Yeah, no, his name is Jimmy. I went to high school with him. He's overlooked.
Oh, yeah. But no, that was, in all seriousness, about that game, the fact that we had no turnovers was a huge step up, because turnovers have riddled us this year. Our defense stepped up again, thankfully. I mean, it was just an overall good game. I'm not even worried about the fact that we didn't score 40. I don't care about that as long as we got the win, and it was a good win.
It was a good win.
We're looking good heading into this
in my opinion, that probably was another huge confidence booster. Katie, I heard Western did pretty good.
Yeah, they played Charlotte. It was homecoming in Bowling Green, so Charlotte was one of those teams that was at the top of the East with Marshall and Western and FAU all controlling, each of us controlling our own destiny. If we went out, then we're in the, conference title game, and Charlotte was not able to hang with Western Kentucky. I'm not sure that there are a lot of other conference mates that are still giving the proper amount of respect of what Western Kentucky can do. They look at that early season and go, oh, well, they were 1-4 and, whatever. But go back, I mean, they gave UTSA all they could handle, and it took a career game by the UTSA quarterback, Frank Harris, to win that game. And they've been rolling. Offensively, they're really good, man. So it was a big win. It knocked Charlotte out of, controlling its own destiny, quote unquote. They could still kind of back into a conference title game if enough things go right. But Marshall kept pace. They won. They beat FIU. So it's still FAU, Marshall, and Western at the top, controlling their own destiny. Of course, I'm sure we'll talk about a big matchup for the Herd here in a little bit, facing FAU and in a losers on the outside looking in type game. But yeah, big win in Bowling Green. They keep on rolling.
All right. Well, good job for the Tops. Back to that early season, they played some real powerhouses early on.
They did, so. and one of those games that does look really good now. When they faced number 3 Michigan State, and they dropped 35 on them. So I already know that offense is goated. Obviously they have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Statistically one of the best quarterbacks in the country. That's something that I've been looking to WKU for, and I'm like, yeah, their record doesn't dictate how good this team is. This team is very good, despite what their record shows. So I've been giving a lot of respect to the Tops. So I, for one, have been doing so. I've been picking them for a lot of their games since conference schedule started. So.
And the Joan is definitely going to be packed.
Oh yeah, the Joan's going to be rocking.
Western Kentucky game. I cannot wait for that.
Yes.
But moving on.
Let's hope anyway. I mean, you got it's the day after Thanksgiving, so that kind of sucks. But should be a big game. Could ultimately determine who goes to the title game. We'll see.
The Marshall fan base is very loyal. So is WKU. So I expect a lot of WKU fans there.
I really hope to see the Joan rock, and I really hope it's going to be loud.
Just hope no fight breaks out.
Yes. No guarantees there. But moving on to this week, here in a couple days, Marshall heads on the road to Florida Atlantic. Obviously, we've said this is a huge, huge, huge game, and according to ESPN, it's a toss-up.
It's a 1.5-point spread in favor of Marshall. This is obviously a huge game. again, if you look at the standings on ESPN, it's the top two. If we beat FAU, obviously that'll just leave us with WKU, and that's amazing. That's interesting. But we gotta get past FAU, and they've looked really good as well. I mean, all three of the top three in the East have looked really good. I'll go through my prediction later, obviously, but this is a huge game for us and FAU. Whoever wins this will most likely win out the rest of the way. Does FAU play WKU?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Okay.
we all kind of play each other in the month of November.
Oh, okay. So, so obviously this will kind of determine what that game against WKU will be, because we face WKU on rivalry weekend, and that's huge in its own right. So, that's gonna be. I'm excited for what the future holds, but we gotta get past FAU. We don't want to overlook them.
All teams in the East need to win out, which obviously leaves the Eastern Division of Conference USA wide open, and it's going to be an exciting division to watch.
As for the West, UTSA just needs to beat UTEP, and they'll be in. Yep. I think they'll win out the rest of the way if they beat UTEP. I personally think so.
All right. Let's go ahead and get to the next topic at hand. 9 ranked teams went down last week.
Yep.
Michigan, we'll cut Michigan some slack.
Yeah, Michigan. That was a top 10. That was a top 10 game, and I think they definitely have a chance to come back, but they got to fix some issues. Another team that went down, that was, who was it? I actually got to look now. Hold on. I apologize.
Iowa State went down to West Virginia.
Iowa State went down. I knew it. Last episode, I literally said this.
Yeah.
Iowa State was in the rankings too early.
Yes.
Too quickly. They got one win over a top 10 team. Congratulations, but they were put straight into the rankings. I didn't think they were going to keep it up, personally.
This year has been
It's been very weird.
Weird one.
Definitely. Penn State went down. They're still ranked. For some whatever reason, but they got beat by Ohio State, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah.
Iowa dropped to Wisconsin by 20.
Ole Miss dropped to Auburn.
Yeah, Ole Miss dropped to Auburn. Yeah, a lot of ranked teams went down. Kentucky dropped. That sucked. Pittsburgh dropped to Miami. SMU dropped to Houston. San Diego State dropped to Fresno State. Yeah, a lot of top 25 upsets happened last week. Yep.
And, Katie, I know you mainly cover Marshall and Western Kentucky, but how big do you think Michigan State's win was over Michigan?
I mean, anytime it's a top 10 matchup, in-conference matchup, and a big rivalry game, whoever comes out on top of that is going to kind of be on cloud 9.
Yeah.
And I watched that game because it was before the herd kicked off. I actually watched the herd FIU game after that, and that was just an unbelievably entertaining, hard-fought game right down to the very end. But it's huge. If you go back and you look at those overall records between the two teams, Michigan State kind of needed to get one. It had been a little while, and they needed to get one, and they're making some real noise this year. 8-0. I mean, I don't know that they're the third best team in the country, but damn, they're pretty close. They are tough.
Yes.
Of course, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I watched when they played Western, and they gave up a ton of points to Western. They were on. They were healthy. It's not like they were missing Kenneth Walker or anything like that. They were kind of at full strength, and if Western gets touchdowns in a couple of scenarios where they had to settle for field goals, you might be staring down the barrel of a monumental upset. But that wasn't the case, obviously. Michigan State's still a really, really good team, but huge win over Michigan. One that I think I can't remember the exact number, but I remember watching that game, and they were talking about the number of players in the state of Michigan that played for both of those teams, and the number was very high. I mean, it was like 100 combined kids or something on both rosters. So you're thinking that in and of itself goes far deep into those recruiting battles when you can walk into a living room and say, hey, we beat Michigan. Like, why would you go to Michigan? You can come here. We're better than them right now. So it's a huge win on a number of fronts, just not in the standings and for trash talk and bragging rights, but things like recruiting and stuff like that too.
Right.
All right. Here's an exciting topic we get to for this one. KD, I said it earlier. You're going to love this one. Could we get Marshall versus Western for the Conference USA East Division title?
It's a possibility. for sure, because both teams control their destiny, and if that holds true up until the last week of the season, well, Marshall and Western are both going to need a win to go to the conference title game. But here's what I'm going to tell you about that. I mentioned earlier that Marshall and Western and Florida Atlantic and even Charlotte are all going to play each other this final month of the season. And of those 4 teams, we already saw Charlotte lose, but they still have to face Marshall. Marshall struggled against Charlotte in recent years. Florida Atlantic actually has the easiest November of everybody. So if Marshall loses here to Florida Atlantic, it's going to be tough for them to find their way back into the conference title hopes, because Florida Atlantic will close with Marshall. Then they have Old Dominion. Then they do have a tough Western Kentucky team, like we've mentioned. And then they close out the season against Middle Tennessee State. So they have 2 of their 4 bona fide easy win games.
Yes.
With, Marshall and Western being the coin flip. So Marshall has the tougher November. They have Florida Atlantic this week, then they have UAB for 75 week, then they have Charlotte, then they close out against Western Kentucky. So even that 4th game is against UAB, a really tough team. So they have to have this one. If Marshall doesn't get the FAU game this week, it's going to be really, really tough. They're going to have some dominoes to fall in to be in a position to face Western Kentucky in the last week of the season to own a tiebreaker and ultimately still go. So you got to get by FAU first before you can think about that. But, yeah, it's definitely on the table for sure.
Both teams obviously need to win out in order for that to happen, but still it would be very interesting to see.
Yeah. I'm just saying that Marshall's got the much tougher road.
Yes, definitely.
To win out, for sure.
Yes.
But hopefully Huff can get them boys to pull it off.
Well, it's obviously Huff's got us going in the right direction.
Yeah,
right
obviously.
Now, so it's good to see. Like we lost 3 straight. Now we've won 3. Now we've won 3 straight. So.
Oh, how the turntables, right?
Look at and we were all. I'll be real. Us Marshall fans were in high hopes this year.
Yeah, well, obviously
we returned a lot of good talent from last year, and we were expecting to kind of dominate the East this year. Now it just isn't going that way. So I expected us to dominate the East this year because I was like, okay, our defense is still as good as it was last year. We've got a new young talent, Rasheen Ali, which he's been killing it. And he's only a freshman, which is scary. We've got guys like Corey Gamage. You got guys like Willie Johnson, who's a senior. Talik Keaton, who's hurt right now, but still. You got Shadid Ahmed, who's been killing it silently. Obviously with our second running back, Sheldon Evans. Grant Wells can run it and throw it if he's playing smart. It's just we got a lot of talent, but we've just kind of underperformed for me.
A lot.
I'm just glad that we're picking it up now, and it's actually interesting now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future later this season. Most definitely.
All right. Before we get to our next topic, we're going to go ahead and talk about this topic right here, the one I just added like a few minutes ago. Western and Kentucky and Middle Tennessee to the MAC. I'm kind of sad about this move because that means the Moonshine Throwdown's unfortunately going to come to a halt, for lack of a better term. Because I'm not going to lie, those games are really fun to watch.
Yeah. Aside from 2016.
Well, no.
Aside from 2016.
Aside from 2016.
That was awful.
Well, the wheels came off of the Marshall machine in 2016.
Oh, for sure.
That's a
I don't think anybody will disagree with that.
To go from having to go from having 34 wins in 3 years to
3 wins that season.
Yeah. no, sorry, 33 wins. Sorry.
Yeah.
We didn't go 14-0. It was 13-1. Sorry. I wish we went 14-0. That would have been great. But to go from 33 wins in 3 years to going 3 wins in 2016, that was just deflating for us. Again, especially with all the talent that they had too.
Yeah, Marshall was loaded, but
yeah.
I guess it was a lack of discipline.
Discipline, injuries was also a big thing.
Yes.
That was just awful.
It was not a fun year for Marshall at all. But right, Will, are you ready to go off on your tangent here?
Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay, so we got the...
You're going to love this one, Katie.
All right, so we're going to talk about the CFP rankings now. A lot of BS happened here. If my computer would work with me, thank you. So I'm just going to go out and just straight up say, everyone, we can all agree, I think all three of us can agree that Georgia is the easy number one.
Yes.
That's not even a question. They've literally taken everybody that they've played this year and just...
To the woodshed.
Yeah, to the woodshed. Old Yellered them. It was just... They've dominated. Number 2, I can kind of see it. Bama. Alabama's number 2. Their only loss, it looks really good now. It looked bad at the time, but it looks really good now. It's Texas A&M. So I can kind of see it. Number 3, I can agree with you, KD, that Michigan State is number 3. And I don't see them being number 3, but I can definitely see them being up there as well. Maybe number 4 or 5, but the team I don't agree with in this top 4, and I went off about this yesterday too. Oregon is number 4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what your opinion is on that, KD, but personally, why is Oregon there? And what?
I mean, do you want the real answer? Why are they there?
Go ahead.
Because they're a powerhouse name brand program.
Exactly.
That's why they're
that's
there.
true. That is true.
Because Nike has a lot of money. That's why they're there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I see. I got you. And
they're a good team. I'm not trying to say
they're
a bad team. But you're a team with a loss on your record, and the team right behind you is the team with a loss on the record that you beat, and you're both in front of an undefeated Cincinnati team that was ranked number 2 in the country.
I was about to touch on that too, and the fact that I got so mad about this yesterday. When I found out the other day to Alex, I went off. I was so mad.
I was sitting there playing Madden late at night, and then he messaged me. He's like, Cincinnati's number 6. I'm sitting there like, no. This is a dream. He's lying.
No, all caps. Cincinnati's number 6.
And then I went to ESPN. I paused, man. I went to ESPN and looked at the rankings. I'm like, oh my god, no way.
Yes, but no. The reason, so say the Nike stuff doesn't exist. They're not a big name program. Oregon should not be there because they haven't been impressive. They beat Ohio State, but Ohio State's improved a lot. I'm pretty sure that they play Ohio State now, Ohio State would dominate them, personally.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Are you an Ohio State fan?
Huh?
Are you an Ohio State fan?
Part of my family is. I'm not.
I'm sure there's no argumentative bias coming into that at all.
No, there's not.
The fact that they lost to Oregon.
No, there's not. I'm looking at how Ohio State has played since that game, and they've improved a lot. That's what I'm going off of. No, part of my family is. I'm personally not an Ohio State fan now. We're both diehard Marshall fans.
Yes, we're students at Marshall, so we kind of have to be
students of Marshall.
Look, if winning doesn't matter, then what are we doing here?
Exactly.
So if there are 3 undefeated teams that are ranked 6, 8, and 9, then what are we doing here?
Exactly.
Winning has to matter. Since when the term quality loss is the most idiotic term in sports, because a loss is a loss. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and if there are teams behind you that have not lost, then what are we doing here?
A lot of the excuses here, and I'm sorry to cut you off, a lot of the excuses here for Cincinnati being at number 6 is who have they played, and I think that's bullcrap because they beat a Notre Dame team that is soundly. They beat a number 10 Notre Dame team soundly. And it's not like the Americans a cupcake conference either.
No, the American now is tough.
Exactly. So, and I understand, they kind of struggled against Navy. Okay, I understand they struggled to put up points against Tulane. I got that. But everyone else, a solid UCF team that's always solid, they dominated them. They do the same thing. The only loss that Houston has I'm pretty sure is to Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. So, and Houston's ranked in the AP poll now.
SMU also lost to Cincy.
Well, they haven't played yet.
No.
They play later, but they haven't played yet. But, no. Cincinnati, they can't use that excuse. It's the fact that Cincinnati's not a big-name school, which is stupid. Mm-hmm. I think that is just that's why I got so mad, because I was like, oh, okay, so basic, and they read the article, and that's when I found out that their whole excuse was who they played. That's bullcrap. That is stupid. Whoa. And I honestly wanted to punch a wall yesterday, a concrete wall yesterday. I almost did, because I found out what the reasoning was, and I'm like, what?
Hey, if it makes you guys feel any better, I read an article yesterday from a senior writer over at ESPN calling out the committee.
Yeah, Herb Street even did, and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, you got Herb Street ticked off. Oh yeah, you messed up.
Guys, you can't say, well, you haven't played anybody, because honestly, the only teams that they can control are the out-of-conference matchups.
Exactly.
Like, if you think if Cincinnati was like, hey, we don't have to play an American conference schedule, we can play a Big Ten conference schedule this year because, we're a good team, all right, let's do that. But they don't have the luxury to do that.
Right.
So you have these broker teams that all group together in these power conferences and concentrate all these quality teams together, and then they say, well, you're not playing anybody. Well, you don't want to play us, first of all.
Could you
all you can control is you're out of conference, and if you don't want to play a team like, what does a team like Ohio State, for example, do you think they're going to go and play Cincinnati? No. You know why? Because Cincinnati could beat you, and then you won't be able to say, well, you're not playing anybody.
Right.
So this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't play anybody, but you don't want to play us unless it's, a 10-for-1 deal and you're only going to play in Columbus. Like, that's not how this should work, but that's the world we live in.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Like, when you have a committee and you have a small group of people that can use whatever criteria they want to judge these teams, then they can always make their narrative or their evidence fit their outcome. Yeah. So if they want Cincinnati at 6, they can pick 2 or 3 or 4 things to say, well, this is why. And if they want Oregon at 4, then they can say, well, here's why. And there's no checks and balances for that to be like, well, that's not right. You can't do that. Right. Because they make the decision. So there is nobody to tell them it's the wrong decision. So it's a sham system. It's about the big boys getting in every time and keeping everybody else out, so that wealth from the college football playoff is always passed around to the same people. That's all it's about. Money. Money, money, money. Why do you want Oregon at number 3 or number 4? Because they know if Oregon gets in, then 40,000 Oregon people will show up to a game. Right? If Coastal Carolina gets in, let's say, 40,000 people aren't buying tickets to go see Coastal Carolina. There's your big difference. So who's going to fill the seats? Who's going to keep the money coming?
Yeah, and honestly, that's just the whole thing. Like, it's at the end of the day,
it's not a playoff, guys. It's a cash machine, and who can get the money coming in is who you're going to see in. And whichever biggest fan bases will travel that also have good teams, that's who you'll see. Right. Go look back at every playoff. See who gets in and who gets left out. It's the same people.
Right.
And it sucks, but unfortunately, that's the system.
It is the system, and it's terrible. It's terrible.
But moving on, we're gonna go ahead and line up the mood a little bit. Predictions.
Oh, okay.
What do you guys think? You guys like predictions? They're fun.
Yes, sir.
I mean, they're fun. I'm terrible at them, but
we haven't been too hot either.
All right, so we're going off of the AP poll rankings because we made this.
I wrote them down Monday.
Yeah, we made this list before the CFP rankings came out. So you forgot to add Ole Miss's rank, but whatever.
Whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter now.
You're good. Yep, they're 15th in the AP poll. But anyways, okay. All right, so the first game up, we got Wake Forest, number 10 Wake Forest at North Carolina. They're number 9 in the CFP.
Yep.
So, North Carolina by Vegas is favored by 2.5. I don't see why.
I'm going to say that they're favored because this is a toss-up game and Carolina's at home. That's probably your 2-point difference.
I personally, again, I don't see why, because North Carolina has just been meh, whereas Wake Forest has just rapidly improved every week. And honestly, I can see Wake Forest actually dominating this game because they showed up, faced Duke, dominated Duke. I don't care how bad Duke is. It's a big improvement from where they were struggling with Syracuse. So I say Wake Forest is going to win this game, and they're going to win by at least 2 touchdowns. I think they're going to make a statement here. Give me Wake Forest.
All right, KD, who are you picking? I'll go last.
I'm picking Wake Forest just because I like to see new teams win. And Wake Forest are undefeated. I love it. I mean, even though this is a fairly, I'm not going to call it intense rivalry because you don't think Wake Forest and Carolina. That's a tough game.
Yeah.
But these teams aren't that far apart. Chapel Hill and where Wake Forest is not
Salem.
that far apart. I've been through that. Yeah, Winston-Salem. I've been through that part of the country. So they're real familiar with one another. But I like Wake Forest. I don't know that they'll win, but I'm picking them to win.
I'm also going to go ahead and pick Wake. ESPN's going to pick North Carolina, giving them a 54.8% chance to win. And Vegas is also going to pick North Carolina by 2.5. Who's next?
All right, so the next game we got up is Liberty at number 15, Ole Miss, number 16 in the CFP. This is a big game for Liberty, obviously.
Huge game.
Any game against an SEC team, I feel like at this point is huge, unless it's Vanderbilt. But anyways, Matt Corral is playing hurt. It's become well known that he's playing hurt. Liberty is a very slept-on team, and I think Ole Miss is on upset alert here. But I am going to take Ole Miss in a close one. I think Ole Miss gets it done. Give me Matt Corral in the offense.
All right, go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, I'm going to take Ole Miss as well. I mean, I don't. This is a game that Liberty could win, obviously, but it's going to take something special. It's going to take a few turnovers by Ole Miss. I mean, some things are going to have to really go right for Liberty to be able to hang.
And Ole Miss's offense is just too good.
But just give me Ole Miss. I mean, there's nothing that leaps out to me about this game that says huge upset is looming.
I'm also going to go ahead and pick Ole Miss. ESPN's picking Ole Miss as well, giving them an 81.5% chance to win. And Vegas is also going to pick Ole Miss by 9.5. All right, next up we got number 5, Michigan State at Purdue. Now,
this one's a toss-up, actually, which is odd. It's a 3-point spread for Michigan State.
And we all know how dangerous Purdue is.
Purdue is always dangerous to a top team. That's become a normal thing. They beat Iowa earlier, and I know that win don't look very good now, but I mean it's a win, I guess. But they beat Iowa. You know, they've been known for being a top team in the Big. They've always been known to be the kryptonite for a top team in the Big Ten. I don't know, but this game just lets me know that there might end up being an upset here too, because Purdue's been kind of that team. They've been kind of like the conference boogeyman. I'm going to take Michigan State in a close one, though. I think Michigan State gets it done and avoids the upset.
All right, who you got, Katie?
I mean, if you think there might be a post big game letdown, then you like Purdue. Jeff Brom is always a dangerous coach to go against. He's picked up some big wins, but I think Michigan State's for real. I think they got their eyes, now they're past Michigan, they got their eyes set on, getting that Big Ten title and getting into the playoffs. So give me Michigan State. Kenneth Walker's just a beast, man.
Yeah.
I'm also going to pick Michigan State, and so is ESPN. The ESPN matchup predictor has Michigan State winning with a 60.7%, and Vegas is also going to pick Michigan by 3. But although keep an eye on that game, should
definitely
be interesting.
keep an eye on that. Definitely.
Okay. We're just gonna kind of speed through some of these because I got to get to class here soon.
All right.
So
let's get to the bigger ones now.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead. We'll just go ahead and get to Marshall's rivals because why not?
Okay.
We'll go ahead and do Oklahoma State at West Virginia.
Oklahoma State's gonna be a little down after that loss to Iowa State. That was a pretty bad loss, but WVU. I can't figure Big Brother out. I'm gonna be real. I can't figure them out. I pick them and then they lose. I don't pick them and they win. I don't know what's happening. I don't know. So I am going. This is going to be really close, and it's actually hard to pick this one. But I'm actually going to pick Oklahoma State to bounce back. But WVU in their defense is going to keep it close. I think the run game obviously will play a factor for WVU with Letty Brown. I don't believe that they're going to get it done, though. I think Oklahoma State gets it done here in a bounce-back week.
Mm-hmm. All right, Katie, who do you got?
I will never pick West Virginia in any game ever. So
Yes!
And I cannot believe I just heard you call them Big Brother. Are you kidding me?
I mean, they're the bigger school.
Yeah.
Hey, it didn't say it had to be the Big Brother that we liked.
We don't know.
Yeah, we all know what you meant. There's no backtracking now.
It should be a given that we don't like West Virginia, though. Should be a given.
I got friends who go there, but I always say fuck y'all.
Yeah, my cousin
language.
my cousin goes up there, and I every time she comes over with a West Virginia shirt on. I glare at her. I give her the death stare. All right, Katie. I guess you're going with Oklahoma State.
Yeah, by $1 billion.
You know what? I like this guy. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State as well. And so is ESPN. The matchup predictor for ESPN says that Oklahoma State's got this one, 54.7%. And Vegas is going to pick Oklahoma State by 3.5.
Next game.
All right, next game up.
Miami, Ohio at
Ohio. That game already happened on Tuesday, and Ohio picked up the win. All right, Katie, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty now.
Yeah.
Conference USA action. I believe it's Western Kentucky at Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, so it's 100 miles of hate, big rivalry game. They've played each other for the last century. I mean, seriously, they've been fighting, doing battle for 100 years. They call it, of course, the 100 miles of hate. Give me Western Kentucky in a huge win. Middle Tennessee's not going to be able to hang. They never should have beat Marshall. If Marshall doesn't turn the ball over 6 times, Middle Tennessee doesn't win. We all know that.
Yes.
So I think Western Kentucky is literally going to blow the doors off Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah.
And this should show that we are not biased, okay? Anyways, I am also going to take WKU in their offense. Their offense is, oh my God, it's too good.
It is really good.
It's way too good for Middle Tennessee. And you're right. If we didn't have 6 turnovers, we'd be undefeated in conference play right now.
Yes.
We'd be 6-2 instead of 5-3. You know.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I can see wrong with Middle Tennessee's team as a whole. Their offense is kind of struggling a little bit. Their defense as well. Their defense is not going to be able to hold Bailey Zapp. I think Western Kentucky gets this done. I think they win big too. Give me WKU in a blowout.
I am also going to pick Western Kentucky. See, we're not biased, Katie.
Well, Western Kentucky and West Virginia are 2 totally different animals.
You're right.
Fair enough.
But ESPN's going to go ahead and pick Western along with us. The matchup predictor. Yep, the matchup predictor has Western winning with a 73.2%, and Vegas has Western winning as well, by 16.5. All right,
and now the big one.
The big one of the week one, the main event.
The main event of the
in
evening.
Conference USA that is somehow being broadcasted on a social media network. I don't know how that works, but
cannot wait till we're out of here. I'm just kidding.
It's Marshall and FAU.
It's a 1.5 point spread.
Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, Marshall used the run game very heavily against FIU, and it worked. You know, Rasheen Ali basically just bouldered through the defense like it was nothing. One thing I have seen wrong with FAU's defense has been against the run.
Yeah.
That's a big issue for FAU. And Marshall, as we all know, has a really good run game. So I think Marshall uses that for the offense. As for the defense, our run defense isn't very good either. But FAU's not a team that runs very much. Well, they do, but it's not like they're a more balanced team than Marshall is. But I do think that FAU will rely more on the passing game. Our secondary has been pretty good this year, so I think Marshall gets it done. It's going to be very close, though. I think Marshall does get it done with the secondary and the run game. Give me Marshall.
All right, who you got, Katie?
I don't know. This is a tough one. This is really the first game that I've felt that was a must-win for Charles Huff and this team. And this is a string of several must-win games coming up. This is the first one. You talk about Marshall being 7-1 all time against Florida Atlantic. Their only loss to FAU was in 2017, where the Owls ended up winning the conference, but the Herd loses by like 5 points in a game where Chase Litton threw 4 interceptions. Just one of those things. Marshall's always had their number. This is a tough one for me, though. But I do like the Herd to go on the road and get a win. I don't think it'll be like a very convincing win. We're talking probably less than a touchdown.
Yeah.
But give me the Herd continuing to control its own destiny in the East.
Well, I'm also picking Marshall.
This man struggled so much to think about that too.
I did.
Like,
I really
don't take his like straight up. Like, I'm picking Marshall as a thing that he didn't struggle. He struggled.
I struggled with this one because I have an instinct, and my instinct is normally right. But I'm gonna pick Marshall. ESPN's gonna disagree with us though. They're picking FAU with a 53.3% chance to win.
Wrong.
But however, Vegas is on our side.
Yeah.
Picking Marshall by 1.5.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's a coin flip game, guys.
It really is.
Games in both.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be a fun game to watch. Be sure to keep your eye on that one for sure.
I really think that this game is the one that we got to worry about the most.
Well, other than Western, just guess.
Okay. Let me rephrase.
You worry about the game the most right now.
The one we got to worry about the most right now. I think we can definitely beat UAB. Mm-hmm. I think we can definitely beat Charlotte. Mm-hmm. But WKU obviously will be tough. So
all of that doesn't matter really unless you get this one. So eyes on the prize, guys. One week at a time.
Yep.
All right. Any other final thoughts, boys, before we head off?
Big week of college football going on.
Yep.
Big week, especially for Marshall and WKU. We'll see we'll see what the future holds. That's all we can really do at this point.
Yep.
We're getting down to the nitty-gritty of the season.
Oh, yeah.
This is where you separate the contenders from the pretenders, and you find out who you are. I think Marshall's figuring out who they are at the right time. They're figuring out what they can really do really well on offense, and defense is starting to come around a little bit better. So Marshall's a better team than they were, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So
we're not giving up big leads anymore.
No.
And plus, you look at it next week. Potentially, you should see Talik Keaton back in the lineup. Mm-hmm. So you get through FAU, maybe you're back to full strength, and get Talik Keaton, who's been a real difference maker for this Herd offense. They're just a different offense when he's in the game. So getting him back in time for 75 week would be huge. So hopefully that happens. But all I'm going to say is best of luck with this podcast venture. If I can give you any advice, the longer you stick with it, the easier it becomes, and the more comfortable you get doing it. So we've been doing it for 6 years now. We've got several hundred episodes under our belt, and I love podcasting. It's a whole lot of fun. So best of luck with this podcast venture, guys.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Katie.
And thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
We both appreciate it.
All you got to do is hit me in the DMs and say, hey, man, would you like to come on? And I'll try to make some time for you for sure.
All right. Appreciate it,
man. All right.
I'll go ahead and leave your Twitter in the link below in the description so everyone else can go and check out your Twitter. But on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Thank you, KD, for coming on the show. And it's going to be an interesting week of college football. We'll see what happens this Saturday. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Go follow KD on Moonshine at Moonshine Throwdown. I had to throw it out there. I had to. It's like a sponsorship,
He's about to end the video. Follow this man.